start the record. Okay, can everybody see my screen okay?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, welcome everybody to the Global Blockchain, Cryptocurrency and Trading Meetup Community. Tonight's hosted by myself, Paula G and DC. We are recording, so for everybody that is watching the replay on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. We have a private Telegram group, so anybody that is at the meetup this evening, if you'd like to join the Telegram group, in the chat, if you drop in your Telegram name, we will invite you to the Telegram group afterwards. And then finally, if you can, after the meetup, if you could leave a little bit of feedback on the meetups page, because it'll help other people find the meetup, it'll give us better rankings and stuff and help other people find the meetup. So just our code of conduct for this evening, as with every evening, we would ask everybody to be aware of others, be friendly and patient, welcoming and respectful, be open to all questions, don't be afraid to ask a question, be understanding of differences, be kind and considerate to others. So if there are any breaches of this, you can come forward and contact me directly if you need to. Just some upcoming meetings we have scheduled. So for the 26th of March, which is next Friday, we're just going to have our crypto lounge chat, and we'll probably have it the Friday after that. I know from the Telegram group, we have been missing our little chats. So we're going to schedule one in for next week. And we have two things on the agenda to talk about next week. This week, Simon came up with a fantastic idea after watching the presentation last week, that we have a little contest and we all mint our own NTFs and see who does the best. So we're going to formalize that and we're going to talk about it next week. And we're also going to talk about alts next week, altcoins next week as well. So tonight we have Andrew Levine. He is the CEO of the Koinos group, and he's going to be presenting to us building a blockchain with zero barriers. Andrew has been in the blockchain space for longer than I have. He is probably one of the first developers that I met. He was working on the first blockchain that introduced me into cryptocurrency in the first place, and he was one of the leads on the project at the time. He's no longer on that particular project, but I am sure he will tell us himself what he is up to. Andrew, if you would like to take over. I see you have a cat.
Yeah, he was whining, so I had to comfort him for a second. Yeah, happy to take over. So I'm the CEO of the Koinos group. We are a team of longtime blockchain developers and advocates who have the most experience in the world working on feeless blockchains, because basically we're the only people who've really worked on them aside from EOS, which was started by Dan Larimer, who originally started Steam and who trained most of my co-founders in building blockchains. And he onboarded them into Steam and then left to start EOS, and none of them left with him. And so that can tell you a lot of what you need to know about them. And so we were continuing to refine the feeless blockchain model with Steam over the years while they were off doing some really interesting work in the EOS ecosystem, some of which we are taking advantage of. But when we decided to leave Steam and start our own company, we asked ourselves, why doesn't my mom use a blockchain-based application? Why doesn't my cousin, who is a 20-year-old person, why aren't they using any decentralized applications? Maybe we should build that decentralized application. So we evaluated all of the blockchain solutions. We determined that we couldn't use Steam, which is what we used before, because we were tired of hard forking it all of the time, because that's the only way you could update it. So we felt we needed a blockchain that was fully programmable, but was also feeless. And so we looked at the options available and we didn't find anything that was remotely qualified to meet our needs. And so we thought, like many people do when they encounter the fees on blockchains like Ethereum, oh my God, this is the worst thing. If only somebody could build something that didn't have these terrible fees. And we thought, oh, wow, apparently we have that skill set. We can do it. The tools exist. And so that's what we've spent the last year building.
Very good.
Yeah, I mean, that's just that's basically who we are and what we're doing. I spend all of my time CEOing, so I might not be the most prepared for this. It's not like I have a presentation or anything. Happy to answer any questions you all might have. Happy to take this wherever you all want to take it, actually.
Okay, well, do you want to talk to us about what you are building, about the problems on blockchains at the moment, and how you plan on overcoming them, and what the potentials are out there, and the types of apps that can be developed for entrepreneurs and people like that?
Yeah, absolutely. And I have given some thought to this meeting. I've just had 1,000 meetings between when I thought about this meeting and now. And so it's all coming back to me. But yeah, we really believe that it sounds simple and borderline stupid, but smart contracts are the future. They're amazing. But they're super expensive to run. You can program all kinds of decentralized applications with them, but they're super inaccessible and they're super expensive. And I think the thing that people don't, I think the main thing that people don't realize is that when you pay a fee on a blockchain, you're not paying for the resources that you're using. You know, that's like saying that when you drive down a highway and you pay a toll, that you're just paying for the road, only the road that you're using. No, you're paying a price that some intermediary is charging you for all kinds of other things. And this creates all kinds of perverse incentives. So if you run a smart contract on Ethereum, the actual cost to the network, first of all, we don't know what it is. That's why we put in a fee, but it's not a lot. It might be pennies. So why are you getting charged $1, $10? And if you were willing to put in, say, $100 worth of capital into Ethereum to perform 1 or 2 transactions a day, when those transactions just cost a penny, why is Ethereum saying, no, that doesn't do anything for you? You have to pay $1, $5, $20, $70 every time you want to do anything. That's just going to prevent you from putting capital into the system. And so we actually believe that you have to remove the fees to remove the perverse incentives and get to a place where what's happening is you're only paying for what you use, and you don't feel like you're losing anything every time you pay for it. And so one of the key technologies that we're developing is something called Mana, and it's basically this dynamic system that enables you to convert your dollars into, say, 100 coin, and then that 100 coin that you hold, that gives you a right to perform free transactions on the blockchain, free transfers, execute free smart contracts forever. Now, it doesn't mean you can do an unlimited amount, but it means that as long as you hold that, you will have some amount of mana. And depending on the transaction that you want to do, the time you want to do it, you'll be able to do it for free. And in fact, the system doesn't have fees anywhere. It's not like, okay, if you use up your mana, then you can pay a fee. There will probably be secondary type solutions like that crop up. But the system is entirely designed around ensuring that if you hold the token, you can perform free transactions. You might have to buy more if you want to do a lot more, if you want to do a lot more expensive transactions, but you can sell that. you're not going to get nickel and dimed on it. You can load up, perform transactions, and then liquidate. You always maintain liquidity, you always maintain optionality, and those things are very important to us. And so in order to accomplish this, we had to build a totally new blockchain from scratch, totally new architecture, first blockchain on a microservice architecture, first blockchain that has what we call modular upgradability, where every feature can be upgraded without a hard fork. And so, yeah, sorry, what was the question? Did I answer the question?
There wasn't a question. You were just talking to us
more
about,
detail.
Yeah, I was asking how you were overcoming problems on current blockchains with what you're working on and developing.
Yeah, so yeah, that covers kind of the nuts and bolts of it. On an architectural level, there's a high degree of modularity and upgradability. So Koinos is much more like how modern operating systems work, where you want to upgrade the system, you release a patch to that specific problem, it gets distributed through the network within transactions, and you can have different parts of the systems being upgraded every day, every other day, totally independently of one another. And no other blockchain really works like that. And so it works like that at the blockchain level and then at the node level as well. So we had to architect all of that stuff. And that's really what we've spent the last year doing, is actually architecting these like highly technical foundational solutions. We don't even have like a consensus algorithm yet, or a governance algorithm yet. But the beauty is that all we have to do is write up those smart contracts. One of the things that sets Koinos apart from every other general purpose blockchain as well is that pretty much everything that you think of when you think of a blockchain is done in smart contracts, even the system itself. And that's a big shift. I mean, that's why we say like smart contracts are a game changer, more so than even most other projects. Think projects like Cardano, Polkadot, EOS. A lot of their system logic is in the blockchain. We took it out of there, we put it in smart contracts. That's what gives us the high degree of upgradability. That'll enable the platform to evolve and adapt to the needs of developers and users in real time. And so that's how we see the future playing out, is the platform that adapts the fastest, that improves the fastest, that's the platform that wins. So I think, maybe it might be a helpful topic to bring up within this particular group that, upgradability, I think, is definitely one of the most underappreciated concepts within the space, because so few protocols are upgradable. So nobody really wants to talk about it because they want to pretend that their platform's like perfect and it's going to work forever. Polkadot has some upgradability stuff. Tezos has some upgradability stuff. We think it's pretty bad, but they have it. So, that's definitely something to look out for.
When you say upgradability, do you mean scalability? Or is that different? Am I mixing up my terminology?
No, that's great. That's a great topic to bring up, because we believe that the ultimate scalability solution is upgradability. So they are different, but they're related. So for example, scalability in the blockchain context is you have a database that doesn't shrink. It only grows. People only add stuff to it, and it preserves everything. That's why it's called immutable. That's going to get big really fast, especially if a lot of people start using it at a moment in time. And the problem is that, say a gazillion people use it on Monday and then nobody uses it on Tuesday, it still has to operate at the level of Monday. And so it's always spiking up to the highest level of usage, and it's never spiking down. And so that creates massive challenges when it comes to the infrastructure itself. So for example, EOS is a general purpose blockchain, and its state size is like 10 terabytes. And now 10 terabytes on hard disk isn't that big of a deal, but a huge amount of EOS runs in RAM. EOS is actually architected to leverage RAM, and RAM is insanely expensive, especially when you're getting into the 10 terabyte range. I mean, 1 terabyte of RAM is expensive. And so the machines that are actually running the network become impossible to get, to run, too expensive to run. And so that's where scalability comes in. Now there's 2 types of scalability. There's horizontal scalability and there's vertical scalability. And so sharding is a concept you've heard a lot before, probably. And what that means is you take the blockchain state and you break it up into lots of pieces and you distribute it amongst the network. The problem with sharding is that you have to have enough redundancy so that you can't really lose anything. You have to keep a lot of information on both chains, and there's a lot of communication, additional communication that has to now happen between these chains. So it's a super hard problem. But there are some projects that are doing good stuff on that, like Near has an interesting sharding protocol. Now, the reason I said that upgradability is the ultimate solution to scalability is because when blockchains are young, you don't really need to worry about scalability too much because the database is small. Now, they get big. So a lot of projects say, well, it's going to get big, so we have to figure out scaling at the beginning so that when we get big, we can continue operating. That's what Ethereum did. Well, actually, that's not what Ethereum did. That's why people started Polkadot. That's why people started Cardano. But here's the thing. The way that we built Koinos, we can add sharding as a smart contract whenever we want, whenever it's necessary. 3 years from now, 4 years from now, everything is smart contract. Everything can be upgraded without a hard fork. We can have sharding in 4 years. And guess what? In 4 years, the sharding solutions that are out will be much better, will work. So they'll be infinitely better than the ones that exist now. And that's a really crazy thing to wrap your head around. The more you can put off integrating a specific solution, the longer you can put that off, the better the solution will be, because it'll be in the future. Somebody else will have done more work on it. So that's horizontal scalability. Vertical scalability is how do you deal with the, so you got the blockchain on one computer. Is there anything you can do to improve the performance of that computer to enable the blockchain so that it doesn't need to be broken up and separated? And that's actually one of the major innovations that we've also come up with, which is called state paging. And what state paging enables us to do is it enables the blockchain to grow and shrink. So old unused state of Koinos gets paged out, it gets removed from state, but you can page it back in. Koinos keeps enough of the information it needs to verify that the data that's being paged in, the state that's being paged in, is correct. It's the exact same state that was removed, and then it puts it right back into active state. And so right there, now you've got vertical scaling. Now you've got a database that, based on our estimates, Steam would be, we use Steam as a reference, but it would be 72% smaller with state paging. So just with state paging, you get vertical scalability. Your blockchain can age and grow far longer without even needing to get to that horizontal scalability stage. Of course, if we really have this great feeless blockchain and everybody starts using it and you can program smart contracts in all the programming languages that you already know, yeah, we hope and expect that, you know, a crap ton of people are going to start using this. And so eventually we will need a horizontal scalability solution. But the beauty of modular upgradability is that we can add that when we need it. In fact, we can basically add anything when we need it.
We have Archit here with his hand up with a question. Do you want to come on to mic?
Yeah, just a quick one, Andy. You know, you were talking about or the vertical scalability. So to be honest with you, are you talking about deploying smart contracts on cloud and, you know, like just making a microservices architecture in order to make it for future folks, or what exactly the thing you are planning?
Okay, I think you self-muted yourself like twice while you were talking, but I think I got the nature.
Yeah.
I think I got the nature of your question. So our smart contracts are WASM smart contracts, just like many other chains feature. In terms, so we have two vertical scaling solutions. The first is that Koinos is designed to lean as heavily as possible on disk. So there are new technologies that have come out, RocksDB in particular, that enable us to store blockchain state on a hard drive, on a spinning disk hard drive, whatever, you know, like the commodity hardware where so many people now have terabytes of hard disk space. Most of our blockchain will just be running on disk. So like you people, you'll be able to run a Koinos node that'll be a high performance node with lots of transactions, fast block times. For the first year, maybe the first 2 years, you all will be able to run a Koinos node on whatever machine you have now. I'd be willing to make that bet. There's enough RAM, there's enough hard drive space. And for the first year, you'll probably be able to run it while you're running other things. And that's because of positive state deltas in particular, but that's a vertical scaling solution where you can use a blockchain and you could use it on ordinary hardware. That's not something that you can really do with any other general purpose blockchain. State paging is just a year, 2 years from now, it's saying, hey, there's a smart contract that nobody's used. It's so it's WASM that's embedded on a blockchain, to answer your question. But hey, nobody's accessed it in a year. Page it out, get it out of the state. That's what state paging will do. And at the same time, it'll say, hey, if you come back and you want to bring that back into active state, you can do that. No other blockchain has that feature either. And anything I tell you Koinos can do means that we've tested at least the math. It's not me just talking out of my ass and saying, oh yeah, we're going to cure cancer and we're going to cure this and we're going to do all of that. No, this is, I will only tell you things that we have at least verified the math on. Some things requires like an active blockchain to know, like state paging, there's going to be a lot of like, because it's a complex system, it's going to be difficult to predict how expensive it will be to bring active state back in. So there'll be a cost benefit analysis there for developers, but it doesn't really matter. We know that the value is going to be huge because at the very least, we're removing unused state. And so everybody who's using the blockchain today, you're not paying for what people did 3 years ago, which is what you're doing on every other blockchain now. Is if you're using EOS today, you're paying for everything everybody has ever done on EOS. That's ridiculous, and it's unsustainable. There was one other point that I wanted to make, but I've forgotten it. So
can I just step backwards a little bit with you, Andrew? We have some newer members to the community that wouldn't be as technically aware when it comes to blockchains. Can you explain what a smart contract is to the community?
Yeah, you know what? I'm going to answer the question, but I'm going to answer it a little bit differently, and I think it's a better answer for you all. With blockchain, we frame the conversation, and then normal people come in and they fall into our technical rabbit hole jargon nonsense stuff. And so I want to try to avoid perpetuating this cycle. So one point that I'd like to make clear to you guys is that, interestingly, I think that the most important innovation in the blockchain space in, say, the last 4 years is a technology called WASM. And so if you're interested in this space, if you're interested in getting involved in this space, I suggest taking a look at WASM, because I'm pretty confident that it is the future. By the way, Ethereum is moving to WASM. Polkadot is moving to WASM. We are using WASM. It's a very critical technology. It was created by Google, Mozilla, all these tech giants, and they created it so that you could run code in a browser. It has nothing to do with blockchains. Why is this such an important innovation? Well, it enables you to run code in the browser, but get the performance of code that is running on your machine. So usually you can't get that because you've got your machine and you've got your browser and you're communicating with the browser and the browser's communicating with the cloud. And so there's all of this stuff clogging up the performance that you're getting. And so the idea of, say, running a game in your browser was really difficult. And really, WASM was probably 99% developed so that we could run games in our browsers. But what's happening here is that other people are creating code that is taking over your hardware through the browser. That's what WASM, that's really the key technology that WASM offers, is that it creates a safe way for us to run code really fast on your computer. And so a smart contract is code that is run on a decentralized network of computers. That is all it is. That is exactly what it is. It is code that is run on a decentralized network of computers. So what we do is we use this blockchain database structure, which is a technology for decentralizing that network. That's the key innovation that was delivered with blockchain is, hey, this is a way we can finally deliver decentralized databases. And one of the great things you can do on decentralized databases is create money. And who doesn't like creating money? But then Vitalik Buterin came around with Ethereum and said, well, we've got all these computers. We've got this great decentralization technology. What if we could run code on these computers? And that's what Ethereum was about. The problem with Ethereum is that they had to develop a custom programming language to run these smart contracts. And they had to develop a custom virtual machine to execute those smart contracts. And all that stuff winds up being really expensive and really slow. And the reason they had to do that is because WASM didn't exist at the time. But WASM exists now, and it's gotten a lot more mature. It's becoming even more like a lot of blockchain specific stuff is getting integrated into it and built for it. And so now we're at this place where we have great blockchain technology, and we have this new technology built by these tech giants that works really well, that has a ton of support, that's probably going to be around for a long time, and that enables you to execute code on random computers in a really, really fast way. And so that's why, you know, WASM is really something to look out for in the space. And that's what, well, the last thing about smart contracts is that in general, they're code that runs in between the transfers of token, of some token. So the code runs and a token moves. And usually the reason for that is that because nobody owns or controls the network, you have to pay for every use of the network that you have. And so that's where the fees come in is, okay, here's my ether, run my code on this network. We're sustainable now. Now, as I've touched on before, these are some of the things we're changing with Koinos. First, all of our system logic is in those smart contracts. And when those are executed, no tokens move. So it's no longer the case that every time a smart contract's executed, a token runs. But also, tokens won't necessarily move when you execute a smart contract, even as a user on Koinos, because that's what you'll use your mana for.
So if you're going to use mana, and if there's going to be nodes, how do the node owners get paid?
Yeah, so Koinos will have token inflation, which means that new tokens will be created every year. And for us, what's really important is A, that anyone can run a node, and B, that any of those people who are running a node and producing blocks can earn block rewards. So anyone will be able to run a node, and anyone will be able to earn rewards for producing valid blocks. So you'll run your node, you'll produce blocks, and you'll get a percentage of that new token inflation. And so the blockchain is paying you to run it.
So it's proof of work then, is it, like Bitcoin? It just sounds like miners on Bitcoin.
It's not proof of work, and it's not proof of stake. You will have how many people are in here?
There is 17 right now.
17?
Yeah.
All right. So, well, you'll have virtual miners. This isn't really something we're talking about publicly yet, but basically, you will be able to bid any amount on a virtual miner. And if you hold that virtual miner and produce valid blocks, you'll be able to earn block rewards. The less you pay for the miner, the lower the odds that you'll get a block reward, but you will have a chance.
Okay.
And so you don't need to buy hardware.
Okay.
So it's the ultimate ASIC and yeah. Hey.
Sorry, late.
So you also have some
worries.
pre-mining going on, Andrew.
Did you say pre-mining?
Yeah, is it pre-mining that's happening with Koinos? There's I have some. What are they?
Right. What did I do? What did I do?
Yeah.
Yeah, typically, sorry for that. You triggered me because people use the term pre-mine with Steemit, and generally pre-mine means you mined before you told anyone.
Okay, is that not ninja mining?
I think they're synonyms.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the same. Yeah, for sure. But now that I know what you mean, yeah. So what we did was, so we want to launch accessibility is a core value of ours. So, well, no, obviously decentralization. So we wanted to launch Koinos mainnet in as decentralized a way as possible, while also giving as much opportunity to people who saw the potential to acquire the tokens as possible. So the way that we solved that problem was we said, hey, we're still building this thing, but we'll launch this smart contract on Ethereum. You can perform proof of work. Yeah, it does, you can perform proof of work on your home computer. You could submit those proofs to the smart contract and you can get some of the initial token supply. And so now we have coin distributed across over 1,000 tokens. And when the mainnet launch, 1,000 Ethereum addresses. And so, and I expect it to be, I think it's probably going to be a lot more than that by the time we get to mainnet, because we seem to be growing in a lot faster now. So when we launch the mainnet, we're gonna, the mainnet will airdrop tokens based on the allocation on Ethereum. And so the initial distribution of the token will be already decentralized and it'll only get more decentralized over time. The idea is to start from a baseline of decentralization and and a place where the people who hold the initial token supply have provably sacrificed, at least in terms of capital or in hardware expenditure, they have sacrificed for the ecosystem. So that's what's happening right now. I think there's something like 5 million, 4 million coin left to be mined from that smart contract. And it's a total of 100 million. And so whenever we get to mainnet, all of those tokens will be replicated. And then that's when the inflation will also kind of begin taking hold. The guidance we gave on inflation was it might be as high as 15% in terms of new tokens created every year. But that number doesn't really tell you everything you know, because a lot of that inflation is going to get stuck in mining, in staking. And I think 15% is probably on the high side. We were trying to start high, set people's expectations.
If people wanted to get involved in that mining now, what would they have to do?
To be totally honest, the mining has gotten so competitive that I really wouldn't recommend it. You can download our GUI miner. It's still there. It's going to cost you we did our best to make it GPU resistant, to make it like one CPU, everybody with a CPU has a fair shot. But unfortunately, there's a little too much interest. But fortunately, the people who are mining the most really mostly dump it on Uniswap. And so the price is highly accessible via Uniswap. This is an investment advice. I'm not telling you to buy the token. Last I checked was 15 cents. So it's still achieving our accessibility goal.
I did find it more economical to buy it than to mine it in the early days when it first came out.
Even when it first came out. Yeah. I mean, it was, well, it was just so cheap on Uniswap. But it got hard fast. There was a bit more interest and hash power behind it than we wanted. But at the end of the day, it's about the mainnet. It's about, establishing some base layer of decentralization. And I mean, somebody else said it perfectly to me. They were like, proof of work mining is always chaos. And fortunately, we've learned a lot from that experience. Like I said, we're not doing proof of work mining on the mainnet. And actually, I think we've got some pretty cool solutions for how to launch new tokens on Koinos without in a totally ASIC and hardware centralization resistant way. Where, I mean, basically, I already touched on our consensus algorithm, but you could repurpose that for a totally fair and open mine that has nothing to do with the hardware that you have. So that's one of the things I hope to see somewhat early in the development of Koinos. But getting rid of the fees is a big part, is a big first step in enabling better mining style distributions.
I have two more questions here, and then I'm just going to open it up to everybody else for questions, if that's okay. Your biggest competitor, or who is it you would like to take over? What do you want to replace?
Well, I'm going to answer that question. We absolutely have competitors, tons of them. I'm not going to be that asshole who claims they don't have any competitors. There aren't really any blockchains with feeless transactions. There is EOS, but EOS is such a dumpster fire that it actually seems like a cop-out to even list them as the competitor. So, the way I think about it, I mean, you could totally see Ethereum as a competitor, right? It's a general purpose blockchain. It's great. Developers use it. I wouldn't say they love it, but they've got a ton of developers. They've got a ton of stakeholders. They've got a ton of capital. It's the 900-pound gorilla. I mean, I like Ethereum. They pioneer a lot of interesting technology. Bitcoin has a scripting language. Theoretically, you can program on it, but it's not really good for that. So, the way I look at it is you've got Bitcoin, it's your digital gold, it's your safe haven. Ethereum is like a combination of a computer and digital silver. It's way more useful than Bitcoin, but it's really expensive and it's really a pain in the ass to use. And we don't want to eat Ethereum's lunch. I think that there will probably always be a fee-based blockchain in the space, and we certainly don't need to eat their lunch. So I see Koinos as this third option, this feeless option. And if, it's not like we're fixing everything that's broken there. It's that we're implementing a different solution, doing it a different way. So you can come in to our zone, to our space, to do what you need to do. And you can get out and you can go into their space and do what you need to do there. And so now there are other blockchains. I think the main competitors would be Cardano, Polkadot. Those are the big ones. Near is a smaller one, but their technology is actually pretty good. So one could view them as a competitor. All of these have fees. Now they want to reduce fees. They have ways of minimizing the fees, but we don't view that at all as an important improvement. We think that the difference between any fee and no fee is qualitative. It's a fundamentally different thing. It's not incremental. You can have slightly lower fees. That's still a huge barrier to entry to ordinary people. So we're really focused on getting rid of those fees. Cardano is my favorite competitor to look at. They do interesting work. They see a lot of the same solutions that, they see a lot of the same problems that we do. And they've gotten very good at talking about those problems and getting the word out there because they've been around for a fucking crazy long time and they still haven't shipped really anything. I think we're going to ship smart contracts before they ship smart contracts. Seriously. And they've been around like 4 or 5 years or whatever. So they're the best competitor for sure because they see the same things. They're like, developers need a lot of help building smart contracts. It needs to be super easy. We agree. The fees need to be super low and predictable. So they built it in Haskell, this programming language that nobody knows. And we're like, yeah, let's make them small and predictable. How about none? Is that predictable enough for you? You don't have to pay them. Yeah, so it's like, yeah, so we got to minimize the fees. Let's do a lot of stuff natively. Let's do the tokens natively. Let's build it into the blockchain itself. And we like agree with them on the problems, and we disagree on the execution 100%. It's like, we are about speed. We're like, how can we build this thing fast so that it can be, you know, get something out, get something upgradable. So it's highly modular, but to use programming languages that people already know. And let's build this thing so that it can accept even more programming languages, so even more people can work in this thing. And let's do everything in smart contracts so that the system is optimized for minimizing that cost and making it really easy to implement your solution. So, I mean, I think we're going to have TypeScript support really at least around mainnet launch, which we've targeted Q4 for. And TypeScript is it's a type of JavaScript for those of you that it's strongly typed JavaScript. So basically, if somebody knows how to write JavaScript, they know how to use TypeScript. And so, like I said about WASM, I like making wild, crazy predictions. But like, one will be like, so here's a wild, crazy prediction. In 5 years, 99% of smart contracts will be written in TypeScript. It's like a wild, crazy, I mean, 99% are written in Solidity right now. But in 5 years, they'll be written in TypeScript because that's how many people know JavaScript. So, yeah.
My last question, but you kind of answered it in there, was when are you planning to have your mainnet live? But you said Q4 for that, is it?
Yeah, Q4. I did want to give just tie a knot around that last question. I think about our competitors, I think one thing to look out for is that there's really kind of two arguments in the space, and it's the heterogeneous blockchain future and the homogeneous blockchain future. And so Polkadot is very much about the heterogeneous blockchain future. They think that they need to help developers launch more kinds of different blockchains and then enable those blockchains to communicate with one another. That's why I didn't really list Polkadot, even though it kind of is a competitor. Whereas Cardano is much more in the homogeneous blockchain future, where we provide this single blockchain, this single general purpose platform, and then everything gets built on top of this. And that's what we're kind of more of the homogeneous mind, which is why I talked about Cardano first too. But actually, I was talking with some of our blockchain architects recently, and I realized that actually we're kind of both. We can go both ways. We've spent the last year building the Koinos blockchain framework, a microservice-based architecture for launching blockchains. We are building a general purpose implementation of the Koinos blockchain framework because we think that's going to be the most broadly useful implementation. But that doesn't mean that other people can't launch their own implementations of the Koinos blockchain framework. In fact, it'll be easier than ever for people to launch their own blockchains because now they'll be able to code up whatever system logic they want in smart contracts instead of natively working in things like C++ or Haskell. But we can add interchain communication as a smart contract as well. And so Koinos may evolve into a heterogeneous blockchain ecosystem where people are firing up their own custom implementations of the Koinos blockchain framework, running the interoperability smart contract that enables them to connect to either other Koinos implementations or maybe some kind of Koinos backbone that is serving this specific function to the ecosystem. But we can go there too. We just don't think, that's just not what developers are telling us they need right now. What developers are telling us they need right now is a blockchain that doesn't have fees. That's it. Give me smart contracts, give me no fees, make it work, do it yesterday. I've got users, I've got partners, my app isn't working and I'm dying. So that's what we're hearing right now. So as far as the release of Mainnet, that is our target. It's there's a little nuance to it because so the testnet we have a high degree of predictability on, and in fact we just released a big chunk of Koinos. We released the P2P microservice, and we released the block store microservice, and we released the C++ and Golang libraries. And I'll tell you guys, but the only thing really left is a mempool microservice and a Koinos D microservice. And then we've basically got a pretty basic testnet. And then from there, in addition to testing the architecture, and undoubtedly there will be bugs and things like that, it's just a matter of writing smart contracts that code up for the system behavior. And what we really want right now is for developers and engineers to start coming in and start getting involved and start helping us to code up this stuff. And this Koinos is designed to evolve. It's designed to be whatever developers need it to be. And so the reason I am giving this long caveat is, say Q4 rolls around and we've gotten to a point where we have these we have a consensus algorithm, we have a governance system, and it's okay, and it all works, and we can upgrade it as needed. You really don't, the first thing to bear in mind is that Mainnet isn't as big a deal on Koinos as it usually is because of the modular upgradability. So right now, everybody's like, you got to get your Mainnet perfect. Everything has to work, and it has to be perfectly thought out, and it has to have everything right, because we're not going to get that many chances to fix this. And that's why Mainnet launches are such a big deal. With Koinos, I think what we're going to see is that it's going to be much more of a progressive thing, where the testnet is getting better and better. More and more smart contracts are running on it. More and more people are participating and weighing in. And at a certain point, we're going to say, this is a mainnet. This should be a mainnet. Let's launch this as a mainnet. And maybe it'll be before Q4. Maybe it'll be after Q4. Ultimately, what will matter is whether our developers, the people who are actually building decentralized applications on this. I mean, if somebody's building a Uniswap on Koinos that has no fees, and they, along with every other developer who's building us, says, you know what, we need that smart contract to just be a little bit better. Let's delay till the next quarter. Why shouldn't we delay? I mean, we want this to be a decentralized thing. We don't want this to be just about us. We want this to be a team effort, not just a team effort, but a community effort. We want more application teams, more developer teams, more engineers weighing in and building this thing all together so that we can launch it as decentralized as possible. But yes, a Q4 launch is totally feasible, because it'll just be a matter of writing the right smart contracts to, get us to, writing smart contracts for us is easy, because we have a ton of experience with that. The hard part is the architecting phase. And by moving so much of the work into the smart contract space, that gives us a lot more flexibility. It gives us a lot more speed with respect to those implementations.
Good stuff. I'm going to open it up for questions. If anybody would like to come on mic and ask Andrew a question.
I would like to ask one if anybody
Yeah,
is
go
up
ahead.
to that. So Andrew, you were talking about, like the concept of virtual miners. So I'm just wondering, like, is it the same yoke that you have like a private chain miners, who will be generating blocks for getting all the transactions validated or
No,
whatever the ecosystem you are, like generating? Or am I getting something wrong here?
no, that's just not close to how it'll work.
Yeah.
No, the blockchain will say, hey, you have a miner and you produce valid blocks and you get block rewards and everything's on chain. But if you guys have any questions, please ask me a non-technical question. I know I went into the weeds, but these are technical products, but I'm really happy to talk about things that aren't technical too. Really anything, don't hesitate to ask.
Quinn, you've got your hand up, John and Quinn. Do you want to hop in? Yeah.
Yeah. I was just wondering, how are you marketing Koinos right now? I'm assuming marketing's a big part of like the getting your brand out there.
Great question. So we do have a marketing strategy. I believe we do marketing. I think we do extremely cost-effective and efficient marketing. It is a product-focused approach to marketing. I do believe that the best way to market is to build a really great product. So for example, we just released those microservices, right? And these are literally the first blockchain-specific microservices ever to exist, right? So we publish an article on Hacker Noon announcing, hey, these are the first blockchain-specific microservices ever. If you're a programmer and you were ever interested in learning about blockchain or gaining a deeper understanding, or you're just curious, whatever, hey, the great thing about microservices? They're super simple. They're super simple programs. So you can check this out. So, and so we posted that to Hacker Noon. Hacker Noon is basically the cornerstone, I would say, of our marketing strategy, because our customers are developers, not speculators. No offense. But we believe that speculators will invest in the chain that has the best apps, that has the best developers. And we care about developers. We are developers. We build for developers. And Hacker Noon is the space, is the place to connect with developers. And so we've cultivated a very good relationship with Hacker Noon. They're great. They recognize our authenticity, our genuineness, and they love the project. And so they've been very supportive. And honestly, I've tried other things. And at my previous job at Steemit, we tried all kinds of things. Nothing works because developers are your customer and developers are smart. So what you have to do is you have to talk to them, you have to listen to them, and you have to build a product that they're really gonna love using. And so if you ever went to a developer and said, hey, I got this great idea for a blockchain, I'm gonna build it in Haskell. I mean, some of them will literally say, fuck you. Like, fuck you, Haskell is disgusting. But instead we say to them, hey, we're building a blockchain and we want you to be able to work with it in whatever programming language you already know. And we're building it for that. And they go, that's great. Thank you. I like that language. I was just talking to somebody today about this, and like, it sounds like the dumbest thing you could ever say. Like, hey, we want to go up to a developer and say, that programming language you slaved over learning and you're really good at, yeah, you could use our blockchain for that. Like, you don't think they're gonna do it? They can't do it on anything else. So like, so it's really a product first marketing strategy. It's funny because I'm basically the marketing guy for the team. But I take that response, but I'm also a product guy. I believe that the product the product is all that matters. Tesla is really my role model in terms of the marketing, where, yeah, they do marketing. They do better marketing than anyone else on the planet because they market with their products, you know, and their events and things like that. So that's definitely the prototype that I want to follow. It's also cheap.
Thank you.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for the question.
Any other questions?
We can talk about NFTs. If anyone has any questions, I want to answer those. But I can also talk about
minted on
NFTs.
Koinos.
What's that?
Can NFTs be minted on Koinos?
Yeah, well, absolutely. They can be minted on any general purpose blockchain. The thing is, you can create them and transfer them without having to pay fees. And not only that, because of state paging, the cost of creating NFTs will be probably an order of magnitude cheaper. NFTs are incredibly expensive. And basically, most blockchains have a technical limit to the number of NFTs that they can create. Most blockchains don't talk about this because they don't want you to know it. But the more NFTs that get printed and used on Ethereum, the more expensive the fees on Ethereum will get. So they actually make, it's not just like, okay, everybody's trading NFTs now, that's why the fees are getting bigger. No, more state is being created that's never going away. And so the fees are going to get bigger and bigger and bigger forever. But why would they care about that? That's how they make their money. So.
Can Koinos store text like Steam could store text?
Yeah, Koinos can certainly store text. Ethereum can too. I mean, when we say it's a general purpose blockchain, so you know, it means it can really do anything. So like you could write a smart contract that specifies how people would share content, human readable text on the blockchain. Now the thing, we don't really think that's a good use of the blockchain. But yes, you can do it. The thing to realize about human readable text on a blockchain is that it's kind of like an NFT. It's incredibly expensive. You're adding to the blockchain state. That's the most expensive thing you can do on a blockchain. So with Steam, the most expensive operation on Steam is comments. So going back to the scalability conversation, you know, scalability is so much more nuanced than people think. So the single best thing you could do to make Steam more scalable is get the comments out of there. And that has nothing to do with sharding or anything like that. There are probably some clever ways that you can implement content related solutions on Koinos. So the nice thing about Koinos is that state paging. So yes, you'll have yes, you could theoretically implement like a censorship resistant, you know, so in my opinion, the use of a blockchain for human readable text is basically like state secrets, where it's like, this is really important stuff and somebody's going to take it down. This is North Korea's, you know, plans for a nuclear warhead or something. You know, incredibly valuable things that people are going to be really eager to take down and to censor. But the nice thing about Koinos is that state paging thing, where if you did implement a human readable text app on Koinos, which you could, at least the comments that are old will be paged out. And so that'll make the cost of running that app even cheaper than the cost of running Steam. And it's a general purpose blockchain. And if you want to bring, and then all anyone has to do is keep a copy of all of that paged out data. It's just a key value pair. So you could store it on any commodity database. So if you're really worried about preserving your comments, but people can store it, people can back it up, and it can be paged back in. But it's not taking up that state. And so you can have the app, you can use the blockchain, but it's not going to be super expensive for you, but more importantly, it's not going to be super expensive for everyone, because that's really the problem you got to look out for. Is the individual things that you do might not be that expensive. It's the cumulative effect of building up that state and bloating all of these computers that are maintaining the network.
Okay, is there any more questions from anyone?
Yeah,
Yes.
sorry, no, go ahead.
You, yeah.
I insist, go ahead.
Okay, once things are paged out for scalability, what is to allow other things to work that rely on that data?
Yeah, you know, that's probably something that you should talk about with somebody more technical than me. I'm actually not an engineer. So that is the biggest challenge with implementing that solution, is enabling everything. You tapped into the big issue. We've done it. We built Koinos to function with that stuff paged out. But to be totally honest, not going to be the best person to answer those questions. If you come into our Telegram channel or a Discord server and you like ping me and you say, hey, I had that question, I'll get one of our blockchain architects in there who will give you like a good answer, not my bullshit answer.
Okay.
It's the question. And that's what makes it so hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why nobody's done it. Yeah.
David, do you want to go ahead with your question?
Yeah, in Q4 when the mainnet goes live, will there be applications up on there? Are you guys developing applications, or is there anything in the pipeline?
I'm very confident that there will be applications running with the mainnet. We're talking to a number of projects now, and we do have some ideas for our own applications. We don't want to work on anything that's going to delay the mainnet. So that's kind of the main challenge, is how do we meet our objectives without delaying anything? We didn't ICO, we didn't raise a bunch of venture capital. We don't have a bunch of other people's money to help us, you know, do a bunch of things. But I mean, I was just on a call just before this call with a DeFi application that used to be the biggest DeFi application on Tron. A lot of every application developer is extremely eager to launch on a feeless blockchain. We just have to prove to them that we're actually going to launch. It's a big investment in terms of developer time and money. So, you know, we don't have anything firm right now, but I am confident that yeah, a lot of apps will launch with mainnet.
Sure, thanks. Anybody else got anything there?
I just have a crazy idea. Suppose somebody wanted to take the Bitcoin blockchain and put it into Koinos in order to have a kind of side chain with Bitcoin. Do you think that could be done, or is that kind of too?
Is that like just wrapping Bitcoin on the Ether chain?
It would be different from, yeah, it would. It's wrapping means you'd have a contract, like a promise to pay Bitcoin once the user requests it back. But this is kind of like on the blockchain level. It would track Bitcoin going into an address and in a time-locked address for some time, and then having the control of all where the coins are and Bitcoin in Koinos at the same time.
Well, so there are a couple of interesting ideas there, and maybe not even what you were really thinking. I mean, one way to interpret what you're saying, I think, would require some kind of interchain communication between Bitcoin. So for the first point I'd want to make is that at the high level, where you're talking about what developers can do on Koinos, we assume the lowest hanging fruit is going to be everything they've already done on existing general purpose blockchains. But I think your question was more leaning into kind of like what more innovative use cases could we implement on Koinos? I think one thing you weren't even thinking was really like, okay, so Koinos, a Koinos node is going to have a Koinos daemon and a P2P microservice and a block store microservice. Can it have a Bitcoin daemon connecting into the microservices? Now that wouldn't be the Bitcoin. I don't think that. I mean, there might be something interesting on the microservice side where basically on your machine, you have Bitcoin running as like a microservice that's connecting into the Koinos cluster. But I also don't think that that's really what what you were getting at. Then the third way to interpret it is you replicate all of Bitcoin's features in a smart contract that's running on Koinos. But I don't see how you would just kind of drag and drop the database. I don't know. Interchain communication is literally something
very interesting to me. Sorry,
yeah.
Sorry for interrupting. But I think that second idea you just said was very interesting to me. Yes.
The microservice idea, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Microservices, everyone, are the future. I mean, they're actually the present of software architecture, but in blockchain, they're the future of software architecture. And they open up this whole world of possibilities. It's pretty wild. I mean, Sean, it sounds like, I mean, you obviously have a pretty technical background. So please, dude, please come. We need more technical discussions in our Discord server, in our Telegram server, in our Telegram channel, whatever you want. Dude, we will be happy to brainstorm crazy use cases for Koinos with somebody like you. Because yeah, I mean, dude, we think of new stuff all the time. We just realized this week that we can implement hierarchical multi-sig without even doing it as a system contract. We're like, what? We're moving it out of the system? Okay. So we're still learning. We're still learning stuff all the time. We originally didn't plan to use a message queue to organize all the microservices. Then we started with a then we were like, hey, we didn't start with a microservice plan. Then we're like, this is amazing. Then we decided to go with a message queue, and we're like, oh my God, there are all these use cases for a message queue for developers. Like, they're gonna love the message queue. Like, so yeah, it's just, that's the fun thing about Koinos, I think, is like, by starting from scratch, like starting from zero and going, okay, now we know what we know. Everything feels so wide open, and doing it right, doing it using like the best practices and the best like design methodologies of the day. It's really what, green field, what are they, blue sky? It feels like we have to stop ourselves. We have to say, to focus on this sprint. We need to get the meme pool microservice written. Nobody wants to write it, but it won't work without a meme pool. Okay.
We have another question in from John and Quinn. Yeah, just want to come off mic.
I just love your passion and creativity. It's like really exciting. Just that. But I wanted to ask, since you kind of came from Steam and the gaming world, I've been really interested in a lot of the new decentralized games. Decentraland, yeah, and just like the concept of virtual reality becoming more into everyone's life, and purchasing like lots of land and building stores for games that you could take to different, just would like to get your thoughts on what you think that development is going to look like in the future. everyone's very much on board with NFTs, but that seems like a really interesting way of, engaging with the decentralized space on blockchain too.
Yeah, absolutely. And I recorded an interview recently with a journalist from Decrypt named Tim Copeland, where we kind of talked about some of this. So if you want to listen to more about that, you can check out that interview. I think you'll enjoy it. I've always had this weird relationship with gaming and virtual reality. I never really got it. I mean, my thoughts on gaming used to be, I'll game when it's like real life. And that means kind of virtual reality. And then virtual reality started actually happening. And I'm like, I want to be in the real world. I'm older now. I want to be with my family and in the woods and stuff. I don't really get it. But in the conversation with Tim, he kind of helped me see a potential future there. And I don't think it's me wearing goggles, but it is the interesting thing about virtual reality. It reminds me of this conversation I had with one of our blockchain architects, Michael Vanderberg's brilliant guy. I mean, all our whole team is brilliant. That's why I sound smart, by the way. It's not because I am, it's because I just plagiarize everything that they say. But he said, everything, the vast majority of the things in the world are NFTs. They're not fungible tokens. I mean, we primarily deal with the dollar. That's a fungible token. When you go and buy a hat or whatever, that's a non-fungible token. It's a unique item. It's got something that's unique about it. It might be the third one that was created. It might be, it's yours. It's everything has some uniqueness to it. And in order to virtualize those assets, we need NFTs. And so absolutely, I mean, you're talking about selling hats, your houses, all those things, anything in a virtual world will be facilitated, I think, through fungible and non-fungible tokens. You'll have your in-game currencies and your unique items, and the unique items will be NFTs. And I don't want to go into virtual reality, but maybe there will be proxies for everything in the real world, in the virtual world, and these assets will be helping you keep track of those things. We definitely, I mean, the other thing is, here's the other real paradox for us, is that we think that collectibles are the least interesting use case for non-fungible tokens. There's way more powerful things that you can do with non-fungible tokens. For example, a treasury bond, which there's trillions of dollars in treasuries. Those are NFTs. They're not fungible tokens. They're NFTs. They're NFTs that promise a return on a fungible token. And there's so many financial instruments are NFTs. And if you want to do DRM, that's going to be NFTs. So absolutely, NFTs are huge. The problem is that they really don't scale on existing platforms. And so that's a dangerous situation where you have everybody being like, NFTs, you can do everything on these. And, oh, okay, we'll launch like an NFT specific blockchain to handle these NFTs. And it's like, yeah, but what happens when that blockchain gets too big? So, I mean, that's actually why we think state paging will be so transformative. It may be the case that for most stuff, you actually never want to bring it back. Actually, for NFTs, you'll probably never want to bring it back. You'll just want to know that you have it. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of my initial thoughts.
Well, it's really, really interesting. I think, just your thoughts on NFTs, that's kind of the world that we've been living in just in the last week since our last meeting. And it's been really eye-opening just to see the potential that it has. But obviously, yeah, with a lot of NFTs on trading on Ethereum and whatnot, that's really been difficult for a lot of dApps, dealing with the NFTs and whatnot.
Yeah. So one quick point I'd like to make on NFTs, because I don't really hear people explaining it really clearly or whatever. Like, I know I've talked about a lot about the cost, but the reason for the cost, and I don't know if you guys already know this, but like a fungible token is one database. So we're all trading millions of these tokens, but we're just updating the state in one database. Each NFT is its own database. And so every time you're creating an NFT, you're creating a whole new database. And that is what's creating state as opposed to updating state. So like when you're exchanging fungible tokens and stuff, you're just updating state. You're not creating new state. With NFTs, you're creating new state. And that's, that might help you wrap your mind around why this is such a problem and why I have to think that what's going on with the NFTs right now, I feel like it's very bubbly to me. And it feels very much like the Ethereum people, Ethereum whales, this happens every time. They become gazillionaires and they go, how can we pretend like the stuff that's happening on Ethereum is super valuable? Well, we do a bunch of stuff because our money's worth a lot now. And then everybody goes, oh my God, Ethereum is super valuable. This is super great. I want to be a millionaire. I want to get in on this. And they get sucked into that. And, you know, I love people getting involved in blockchain. I actually think Ethereum is pretty great. But wouldn't it be better if people had realistic expectations about what's actually happening here, or had a more accurate picture of what was going on? You know, I mean, most of this stuff is whales faking activity because it's totally inaccessible to ordinary people. So how could it be anyone else?
Thank you. I've never heard anyone explain the NFT being a database in itself. That's really helpful. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Vanderberg explained it to me. That's what I do. I just go, I pick my team member. I'm like, hey, can you help me understand this? So yeah, it's my pleasure.
Anyone else have any other questions there? For we're probably going to wrap up around about now. If anyone, Mobius, anything else?
I'm just curious, do you have any relation with Adam B. Levine? Any relation at all?
My brother.
Is he?
No.
No, no relation.
No relation. No relation at all. My brother is an actor, but he's not a musician. Anyway, hey, I'd be happy to come back in the future if you guys have more questions. So we don't have to cover everything now.
Great, Andrew, that was really interesting. It was very technical and a lot to take in. So it was. I really appreciate you having been on. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. And yeah, we'd love to have you back another time. Thank you very much for presenting to us this evening.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me. And
we have some nice comments coming in the chat as well. Just people saying that it was interesting, and thanks.
I'm glad it didn't get too in the weeds. If you know of any developers or software engineers who you think might be interested in blockchain or are already interested in blockchain, I would really appreciate it if you told them to just check out Koinos. Check it out and see what they think. Ask them what they think. But yeah, you know, the more developer and software engineer engagement that we get, the better. So that we can make it into a better product. That's what we're trying to do.
Brilliant.
So thanks.
Thank
you
well,
very
we'll
much.
end it for everybody on that one, and we will see you all next Friday for our general chat, our lounge chat, where we'll be talking about alts, and we'll be also talking about our non-fungible token challenge that we're going to do. So until next week, take it easy, everyone. Thank you, Andrew.
Nice meeting you all.
Bye.
Thanks.
Now.
Have a good
Bye.
night.
See you guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
See you,
See you
Jay.
next week. Bye.
See you,
Bye-bye.
Jay. Take care.
See you, Celia. See you, Isabel. Darren on.